This story is about moonlanders, a hypocrite, and sweet, sweet justice. Let's go back to April. 3 space companies were competing for a NASA contract to build the next moonlander. They were SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Dynetics. After assessing the 3 companies, NASA awarded a single contract to SpaceX. This made Jeff sad and mad. So he decided to sue NASA. He thinks he should be awarded for coming in second place. But here's why that's not the case, and why Jeff Bezos is the biggest hypocrite in the entire world. First, let's look at how NASA based their decision. They did it on 3 factors: the technical factor, management, and price. This table shows how the 3 companies stacked up. If you look at Dynetics, they're clearly last, so we'll just ignore them going forward. To fully understand the scoring, you need this. This chart explains the scoring, ranging from outstanding to unacceptable. I'm just going to assign letter grades to it, an A for outstanding down to an F for unacceptable, so it's easier to understand. I'd recommend you pause if you want to read the chart. So looking back to the comparison table, both SpaceX and Blue Origin scored a C on the technical factor, and we'll get to the details of that, but for now, it looks like they're tied. Then we look at management. SpaceX scored an A, and Blue Origin scored a B. So SpaceX is pulling ahead here. And then we get to the price. Holy smokes, what a difference. $2.94 billion versus $5.99 billion. Blue Origin is more than double the price of SpaceX. Both companies scored a C overall on the technical factor. Let's dig into that. Under the technical factor, different systems were evaluated. In total, SpaceX received 3 significant strengths. Blue Origin received none. SpaceX 10 strengths, Blue Origin 13. So they have the same number of strengths overall. 3 of SpaceX's are significant and none of Blue Origin's are. For weaknesses, SpaceX had 6 with 1 significant weakness, and Blue Origin had 14 weaknesses and 2 significant weaknesses. So even though they scored the same in this category, a C, it's clear that SpaceX outperformed Blue Origin under the technical factor. It's more of a C+ versus C-. With SpaceX being top of the class in all 3 factors, NASA made the decision to award them the first contract. They wanted to award a second contract, but couldn't due to budget constraints. You see, NASA had originally requested $3.4 billion for this current year's funding, which would have included portions of the contracts for 2 different landers. But Congress only approved $850 million, just a quarter of that request, which isn't enough for even a single lander. Thankfully, NASA and SpaceX worked out a deferred payment schedule so they could move forward towards the ambitious goal of landing people on the moon by 2024. It's ambitious because we haven't been there since 1972. So here we are, half a century later, finally about to restart our moon program, and our self-appointed suborbital cowboy is playing games in court, causing even further potential delays. Jeff Bezos is suing NASA because they originally said they would award 2 contracts for moonlanders, but they can only afford 1, and that 1 was awarded to the company in first place. And Jeff somehow thinks that's not fair. They can't spend money they don't have, and there's absolutely nothing legally suggesting they need to award a second contract. Jeff suing was never going to accomplish anything other than the courts potentially delaying the mission. And that is why he's the biggest hypocrite in the entire world. Here he is back in 2019, comparing how the moon program in the 60s compares to the moon program of today.
Didn't have that back in 1961 and 1962. They were moving fast. They were, from the time of that Rice speech, I don't know the exact, but I'm thinking probably they were letting contracts, actually finished contracts within a year of that Rice speech. Unbelievable. I know that the Grumman, there were 9 competitors for the lunar lander, and Grumman won. The RFP was released, and then it was awarded to Grumman 6 months later. Today, there would be, 3 protests, and the losers would sue the federal government because they didn't win. The losers would sue the federal government because they didn't win. The losers would sue the federal government. The losers would sue because they didn't win.
Yeah, that sucks. I can only imagine working for NASA, trying to procure a lunar lander, having it get caught up in court. Must be frustrating.
It's very interesting, but the thing that slows things down is procurement. It's become the bigger bottleneck than the technology, which I know for a fact for all the well-meaning people at NASA is frustrating.
Just a conversation, okay?
Yeah. I'm sorry, did I say something in politics? I'm so sorry.
Ugh. 2 minutes later, he drives the point about procurement, or awarding contracts, home again.
What you hate to see is the start and stop, and the log jams that get put in place that slow things down on procurement.
Yeah, Jeff, you hate to see it, those log jams. All because
the losers would sue because they didn't win.
That really chaps my ass. Back to 2021, along with the battle in the courts, Bezos and Blue Origin were trying to win over public opinion with a PR campaign. They promoted themselves and discredited NASA and SpaceX, publishing an open letter on their website and sharing biased infographics, which finally brings us to our first taste of justice. It was reported that following the petty PR campaign, Blue Origin employees were leaving the company. Seeing literal rocket scientists, some of the smartest people on Earth, jumping ship is sure to trigger some schadenfreude. But it's just the appetizer, because now it's November, and the judge has made a ruling. Jeff Bezos loses. The court battle is over. NASA says they'll resume work as soon as possible. We're going to the moon! Well, not Jeff. But SpaceX and NASA are going to the moon! That concludes our story about moonlanders, a big fat hypocrite, and some sweet, sweet justice. If you liked it, hated it, thumbs up, thumbs down, share it, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. This video wasn't free. You owe me. Give me the clicks. I gotta eat.